struggle, paying the ultimate price in exchange for democracy we enjoy today. The Senate is concerned that in the last few years, Nigeria's democratic credentials have become questionable as a result of the alarming cases of alleged state-inspired human rights violations and consistent constitutional infractions perpetrated by agencies of government. Alarmed that in the recent past, allegations abound that the executive has not only consistently violated fundamental human rights of Nigerian citizens, particularly the rights to dignity of human person and rights to personal liberty as guaranteed under Section 34 and 35 of the 1999 Constitution as amended of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, but also infringed on the Constitution in several ways. Notable instances of such human rights violations are well documented by the Human Rights Watch and other reputable human rights organizations, and they include as follows: continuous detention of the former National Security Advisor, Colonel Sambo Dasuki, retired, for over 2 years, in total disregard of over 4 court orders, including that of the ECOWAS Court, which granted him bail pending his trial over money laundering charges. Continuous incarceration of the leader of the Islamic movement in Nigeria, IMN, also known as Shiite, Sheikh Ibrahim El-Zakzaki, for over 2 years, contrary to an order of the Federal High Court, which ordered his release in 2016. Lack of accountability for human rights violations by security agencies and other militant elements, including armed harassment, heavy-handed violent responses to peaceful protests, as exemplified by previous crackdown on agitators for the independent state of Biafra, IPOB, and the recent violent clashes between the police and suspected members of the IMN who were protesting the release of their leader, Sheikh Ibrahim El-Zakzaki, in Abuja and Kaduna, respectively. Gradual descent of the country into anarchy and despotism as a result of indiscriminate arrests, unconstitutional detention of citizens under questionable circumstances, as was the fate of Senator representing Abia South Senatorial District, distinguished Senator Einaya Abaribe, who was whisked away by a detachment of the DSS personnel while attending a function at Transcorp Hotel Abuja, and later kept incommunicado at DSS detention facility for about 5 days. Further alarmed that Nigeria's democracy is also being threatened by deliberate and sustained executive assault on the Constitution as exemplified by the following actions and inactions of the executive. 1. Recent enactment and controversial Executive Order Number 6 as an executive legislation which permits security agencies to freeze the assets of persons standing trial without recourse to court order. Several other executive orders have also effectively usurped legislative and judicial powers of the National Assembly and the judiciary as enshrined respectively under sections 4 and 6 of the Constitution. Inadequate security protection for courts in the country, which has indirectly undermined independence of the judiciary and exposed many judicial officers to violent attacks, as was recently witnessed in the Rivers State, when some armed bandits, in an attempt to overawe court officials, stormed the Rivers State Judiciary Complex and maimed several people and also killing several others. And the release of the sum of $496 million from the excess crude account for the purchase of 12 Super Tucano aircraft from the United States government without prior approval by the National Assembly, in direct contravention of Section 80 of the 1999 Constitution. The Senate is convinced that there is an urgent need for the National Assembly to draw the attention of the federal government and its relevant authorities to this unfortunate development, with a view to preventing the country's gradual descent into a chaotic state where violence and might rules and where fundamental human rights are observed more in the breach than in observance. Accordingly, the Senate resolves to 1. Urge the federal government to urgently empanel a judicial commission of inquiry to investigate all cases of human rights abuse allegedly committed by the police, the Nigerian Army, and other security agencies in the course of discharging their duties with a view to identifying the culprits and victims and offering redress where necessary. 2, call on the federal government to demonstrate practical commitment to the observance of the rule of law, especially in ensuring obedience to court orders and following due process in fulfillment of its constitutional obligation. 3, call on the federal government to take necessary measures and/or establish necessary structures to ensure that all constitutionally guaranteed rights of citizens are protected and observed by its security and law enforcement agencies in the discharge of their responsibilities. 4, call on the federal government to desist from further violation of the sacred principle of separation of powers and adopt the rule of law as the guiding principle of government actions. And lastly, summon the Honorable Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Alhaji Abubakar Malami, SN, to appear before the Senate in plenary and explain to the Senate the constitutional basis for the controversial Executive Order number 6 and other executive orders that have been issued by the President in clear usurpation of the lawmaking function of the National Assembly. I so move.
Yes. Thank you very much, sir. Senator Bala Ibn Allah representing Kebbi South. So I've looked at the contents of